When Star Wars: The Phantom Menace was released in 1999, it was meant to be the dawn of a new era for the franchise. A long-awaited prequel trilogy, a return to George Lucas's vision, and a new generation of fans introduced to a galaxy far, far away. But for one person, this wasn't just another movie. For Jake Lloyd, the young actor cast as Anakin Skywalker, this was supposed to be his big break. Instead, it became the moment that destroyed his life. This is the tragic story of how Star Wars destroyed Jake Lloyd. Before The Phantom Menace, Jake Lloyd was just a regular kid with a love for acting. He had a few minor roles in Hollywood, including a small part in ER and a leading role opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger in Jingle All the Way. He wasn't a household name, but he had enough promise to land one of the most coveted roles in cinema history. At only 8 years old, he was chosen to play Anakin Skywalker, the future Darth Vader. The role was massive, and the stakes were even bigger. George Lucas himself had spent months searching for the right child actor, and after auditioning thousands of candidates, he settled on Jake Lloyd. For an aspiring young actor, this should have been a dream come true. But as soon as the film was released, that dream quickly became a nightmare. When The Phantom Menace hit theaters, it was met with unprecedented levels of criticism. Fans had waited over a decade for a new Star Wars movie, and when they finally got one, many were bitterly disappointed. They hated the dialogue, they hated the pacing, and most of all, they hated the characters. Jar Jar Binks became the primary target, but right behind him was young Anakin Skywalker. Fans complained that the dialogue was cringeworthy, that the acting was wooden, and that the character didn't live up to the legacy of Darth Vader. But instead of blaming the script, the directing, or the overall vision of the film, a significant portion of the backlash was directed at Jake Lloyd himself. Grown adults began openly mocking a 9-year-old child. Star Wars fans, some of the most passionate and vocal in all of pop culture, began calling him one of the worst actors in the franchise's history. The internet was still in its infancy at the time, but even then, message boards and fan sites were filled with relentless criticism. Jake Lloyd wasn't just a child actor in a bad movie. He became a scapegoat for everything fans hated about The Phantom Menace. But the criticism didn't just stay within the Star Wars fandom. It followed Jake Lloyd into his personal life. In school, he was constantly bullied. Classmates would mock him, quoting lines from the movie in a sarcastic tone. They'd call him Annie and taunt him with the infamous "Now this is pod racing" line.
Now this is pod racing.
For most kids, school is already hard enough, but for Jake, it was unbearable. Even outside of school, the media continued to attack him. Entertainment news outlets would regularly mention his terrible performance, and he was often used as an example of child actors who couldn't make it. And the worst part, there was nothing he could do about it. He was 9 years old when the film was shot. He delivered the lines exactly as he was directed. He had no creative control, no ability to push back against the script, and yet he was treated as if he had personally ruined Star Wars. For most child actors, early fame is difficult to manage, but for Jake Lloyd, it was something far worse. It was a sentence that would haunt him for the rest of his life. By the time he was a teenager, Jake Lloyd had already made up his mind. He never wanted to act again. After The Phantom Menace, he was offered other roles, but he rejected them all. The experience of being in one of the biggest franchises in the world had completely destroyed his love for acting. In later interviews, he admitted that making The Phantom Menace wasn't even the worst part. It was the aftermath. He despised the media, he resented Star Wars, and he blamed the entire experience for ruining his childhood. His mother later revealed that he even destroyed all of his Star Wars memorabilia. He wanted nothing to do with the franchise that had made his life miserable. For a young actor who once had a promising future, it was a complete and total exit from Hollywood. But leaving acting didn't fix everything. As he grew older, Jake Lloyd struggled with mental health issues. His mother later confirmed that he had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, a condition that made his struggles even worse. In 2015, things reached a breaking point. He was arrested after leading police on a high-speed chase that ended in a violent crash.
At 95th Street, right off of the I-95 Northwest, would be Northwest.
The entire incident was covered by the media, with headlines once again using his Star Wars past as a way to sensationalize the story.
Star Wars star Jake Lloyd has been arrested for reckless driving and resisting arrest. Best known for playing Anakin Skywalker in 1999's Episode 1, the actor allegedly led South Carolina police officers on a high-speed chase last week.
It was clear that Jake Lloyd was not okay. His mother eventually spoke out, explaining that he had been battling mental illness for years. He was placed in psychiatric care, and for the most part, he disappeared from public life entirely. In recent years, the Star Wars franchise has attempted to atone for its past mistakes. After the backlash against the sequel trilogy, many fans have revisited the prequels with a new appreciation. Hayden Christensen, who played the older Anakin Skywalker, was once ridiculed in a similar way, but after his return to the franchise, fans have largely embraced him. But Jake Lloyd never got that redemption arc. He's not making surprise appearances at Star Wars conventions. He's not returning to the franchise for a Disney Plus show. He's not giving interviews about his experience. For him, Star Wars wasn't a stepping stone to success. It was the moment that derailed his entire life. And the saddest part, it didn't have to be this way. Had fans not been so cruel, had the media not used him as an easy target, had he been given a chance to grow beyond the role, his story could have been different. Instead, Jake Lloyd serves as one of the clearest examples of how Hollywood and the internet can completely destroy a person before they even have a chance to live. Jake Lloyd's story isn't just about Star Wars, it's about the way child actors are treated, the way fandoms can become toxic, and the way fame can completely warp a person's life. When The Phantom Menace was released, Jake Lloyd was just a kid who got the opportunity of a lifetime. He had no idea what was coming next, and more than 20 years later, he's still paying the price. Hollywood has a long history of elevating child actors to unimaginable heights, only to discard them just as quickly. The industry thrives on young talent, yet time and time again, these child stars are thrown into the spotlight with little regard for the long-term consequences. Jake Lloyd's story is hardly unique. From Macaulay Culkin to Lindsay Lohan, countless child actors have been placed under extreme pressure, only to struggle with the fallout later in life. The harsh reality is that Hollywood has no safety net for its youngest performers. They are expected to handle fame, scrutiny, and relentless media attention, all while barely old enough to understand the weight of their roles. And when things go wrong, the industry rarely takes responsibility. Instead, it moves on to the next young star, repeating the same cycle, leaving behind a trail of damaged lives and forgotten names. Now, decades later, he remains a forgotten casualty of Hollywood, a reminder of how quickly the industry, the media, and the internet can build someone up, only to tear them down just as fast. And in the end, it leaves just one question: was it really worth it?